Hello and welcome to another episode of This Week in Cars. This is the first episode of 2022. Justin, any New Year resolutions?
Nope.
No? Any,
You really put me on the spot there.
Well, yeah, I mean, every new year we always have to think about, what's to come. And do you have any car-related New Year resolutions?
Don't crash.
Don't crash. Oh, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'd probably say I want to get on the track with a car for this year. So we recently tried to book the Lexus Performance Driving School for Laguna Seca, but we're waitlisted, so we'll see if we get a chance at that. But it should be fun if we do get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This week, there's been a ton of news thanks to CES, so we're starting this year off strong. So let's talk about our first topic for CES, which is the ugliest BMW ever created yet, which is the BMW Ix M60.
So this is like a performance M version of the iX, right? Which is already ugly.
Right.
Although, I don't think there's much aesthetic changes from the standard iX. It's mostly just a lot of extra power, and you also have some more, I think, options as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about how BMW is going full force with performance SUVs as their brand strategy. They're kind of neglecting their sedans. They released the i4 M50, which is according to Car and Driver, they said it's a formidable M sedan, but we know the all the R&D is going into M SUVs, which I don't know. Do you think there was a lot of sales for the X5M and the X6M to justify this push towards performance SUVs?
I don't know the numbers, but I can imagine that since everyone wants SUVs now, I'm sure the M SUVs are selling well.
I don't know though. I feel on the street, I don't see. I would definitely see more M3s and M4s than X6M, X5M, or the X3M. So I don't know. We've already talked. We beat the horse to death on how we don't like performance SUVs because they're just an oxymoron on four wheels.
Yeah, I think BMW said probably 20 or 30 years ago that they would never make an M SUV. But clearly they've kind of changed their minds on that.
Yeah, I mean, spec-wise, we're looking at 6,000 pound curb weight, but we do have 610 horsepower, 811 pound-feet of torque. Those are impressive numbers, and the 0 to 60 is 3.6, which is ridiculously quick for the weight and the size of that car. Those are pushing essentially T-Rex numbers, right?
Yeah, I think it's still not quite as fast as the most powerful M gas-powered SUVs today. But it's definitely very close.
I think it's the power to weight ratio is the limiting factor here.
Oh yeah.
I think this is also about when we go to electrification, the biggest issue is weight of the batteries. So is there a chance that we'll see even lighter M cars in the future, especially the electric ones?
Probably not without some major changes in the batteries. We hear about those solid-state batteries that I think Toyota's working on. But I feel battery, with the lithium-ion batteries today, we're probably reaching a point where we're hitting diminishing returns on the development. So I think we need something that really is a game changer in the battery tech.
I think I think we've also discussed this in the past. If we're looking for weight reduction methods outside of the battery, you can always move to even lighter components. For instance, carbon fiber for perhaps a lot of parts. And I think people buying this car specifically, this is going to be well into the six-figure range. So it's almost to a point like money is no object. Like, how many people are going to go out and buy like a $100,000 SUV where they actually care about the price?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, they probably don't care about how heavy it is anyway. Like,
sure.
if you add, say, a carbon fiber roof, you save, say, 100 pounds. Would they really care about it enough to justify maybe spending another like 5 or 10K on that?
I think if you can get it down to like a 3-second or 0-60, right? That's
not from a 100-pound weight reduction, like.
Yeah, well, like not only from 100 pounds, but say like you made it from like a carbon fiber frame. I think those would push the car into like $300,000 territory.
Yeah, that's going into exotic territory.
Yeah. So we also know that Rolls-Royce is owned by BMW, and they have their Cullinan, which I'm sure is going to get a electrification treatment. With an Ix M60 that goes 3.6, 0-60, like, do you think the Cullinan is going to go any faster? Or I'd argue it goes slower because of all the...
yeah, I think it'll go slower because there's a lot more luxury things for that one.
What's the 0-60 for the Cullinan right now?
Fast enough.
No, I think it's like actually like really fast because they have a sport edition or something. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Another thing we saw at CES for the iX was the color changing paint, which had a lot of buzz, but in reality, it's just a like a big Kindle screen across the car, right?
Yeah, so it uses the e-ink technology that's been around in Kindles and e-readers for, I want to say, like almost 2 decades. So nothing new in terms of tech. It's just that I think BMW is the first automaker to decide to use this on the car exterior. But it also seems that it can only change on to different shades of like gray and white and black, right? It's not. You don't have any like color pigments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like a couple, not a couple decades ago, but like quite a while ago, there was this car that was called the Camouflage Car. So effectively, it was like covered in a LCD screen or LEDs, and it would change to the color that was in the background, and then it would be like invisible to the eye. Do you remember that?
No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was just like a publicity stunt kind of deal.
Like that just makes me think of those giant LED billboards you see around, and they're so like bright and in your face. Right. Can you imagine driving something like that? Like
it was a Mercedes-Benz invisible car, and the whole point was like they're trying to show off their zero emission vehicle to say that, you know, this car has no...
Oh, so it's a PR stunt.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, this is also a PR stunt, right? Do you expect them to actually sell this as an actual car?
No. At least, I don't think anyone would buy this. It's...
maybe someone would buy it.
Yeah, someone.
If they did sell it. But yeah, it's really just a gimmick, even though it seemed to catch the headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, moving on to our next bit of CES releases, we had the Mercedes-Benz Vision EQXX, which advertises a 620-mile range.
So I think this is like Mercedes' vision towards efficiency. So I think Mercedes said that this car will only have around 200 horsepower, but it should get around 600 miles on a charge.
Right.
So, and you can see from the entire design, it's really like streamlined. It's got that long tail in the back for aerodynamics as well. So I think the entire car is just made for just going as far as you can on a charge.
Yeah, this reminds me of like those, you know, those college competitions where they have the solar powered cars, and then they see, like, the competition is to see which car goes the farthest.
Yeah.
It all has like the same super low drag coefficient.
Yeah, I want to say like Volkswagen also did some this super efficient car sometime back, where I think it was like 3 seats. I want to say like to.
Yeah, it's the one that has like that barely makes 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, yeah, but it's supposed to get like 200 mpgs or something. Yeah, and I think this is like the modern day version of that.
Yeah, that was like 10 years ago, right?
Something like that, yeah.
I think so. This car design-wise is like 10 times better looking than the EQS. Like the current EQS we have is like people call it the jelly bean, you know, which is, I really don't like the looks of the EQS because it's supposed to be the S-Class of the electric range for Mercedes. And this one has that kind of elegant, soupy look that I think, you know, could be like a spiritual successor to like the CLS, you know, that long tail that really gives it the soupy look that a lot of people desire.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The concept for the EQS was also a lot more attractive than the production version. But I think Mercedes has said they'll commit to bringing this powertrain to production, this EQXX concept.
So the shell is just a concept and it's probably unlikely to see production. It doesn't look hard to produce or anything by any means.
No, but they'll somehow uglify it.
We never get what we want from the concepts.
No.
That's just the way car concepts go.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Speaking of car concepts, we do have the 2024 Silverado EV, which they announced has 664 horsepower and 400 miles of range.
So this will be like a direct competitor to the Ford F-150 Lightning. So I think the F-150 Lightning, they said it'll come out in 2023. I think this will come out 1 year later, but right now they're advertising like better specs than that in terms of horsepower and range.
Yeah, and I think styling-wise, the F-150 Lightning is good, but this one it one-ups it as well. Like they basically waited for Ford to make the first move and then, you know, make sure they did everything better. Yeah, and they also claim up to 10,000 pounds of towing, which is like I think that's been the biggest issue for electric cars, specifically trucks, is that the towing things significantly diminishes the range for electric cars. And I've heard stories where people tried to tow their car with like a Model X, and their like capacity went from like 200 miles to like 100 miles, and then when charging on the road, it's like a disaster because like none of the Tesla chargers are made for cars that have anything in tow. So
yeah,
hopefully, like, you know, as more electric trucks come out, there's more adaptability to people who are towing things.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that with that 10,000 pound towing capacity, you'll probably see less than 200 miles of range.
Less than 200 miles? You think it'll
I think
half
so,
that?
yeah.
That's rough.
It's not really meant for serious towing, but maybe if you're just like towing your boat to the lake on a weekend, it should be fine.
Yeah, but you better have a charging station at the lake or something. Otherwise, you tow it to the lake and you're just stuck
or you live
there.
close to the lake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is actually this isn't even the first truck that electric truck that GM has unveiled. They also had the Hummer EV, which was unveiled about sometime last year, and the Hummer EV is a monstrosity. Like that thing weighs 8,000 pounds or something crazy like that.
I want to say close to 10,000.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it's got a bazillion horsepower.
1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But how much are you looking at for weight?
Too much.
Too much.
I just hope it has good brakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a car that heavy, you probably want like 8 piston brakes if those exist. Yeah, but that's going to be the top dog electric truck for GM, and then I think this is probably like the essentially the more
the normie truck.
Yeah, normie, but we say it's normie, but I think this car might push like 80K, you know.
Yeah, definitely in the top trims. I think it'll start right under 40K, which is pretty reasonable actually.
Or yeah, the top of the line one, the RST of the Silverado EV is going to be $105,000, which is
wow.
That's basically like the same price as the Hummer EV, you know. Perhaps it's for someone who wants a little more practicality and not just buy the most heavy truck out there. Yeah, and then we also have from Chevrolet the Equinox Ev, which has a starting price of $30,000. And I would say that from the concept, from the photos, this is a very handsome-looking crossover, which is something I never thought I would say.
Yeah, I don't think this is really a concept. It's probably very close to the production one,
Right,
actually.
right. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it looks better than I expected.
Yeah, I think the range for this one is going to be around 300 miles, which is pretty on par with most crossover EVs that are coming out recently. I think it's more than enough to get you to work and back, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the 300's for the top trims, probably. But if it feels like 300's the number to hit to like have a competitive crossover EV today.
Right, and and we know that this is going to be based off the GM Ultium platform, and the Ultium platform is GM has actually also been selling it to other manufacturers.
So the next topic is that we've heard a rumor that Hyundai will stop its internal combustion engine development. But it looks like they've actually denied this claim.
Yeah, I think there were rumors about it, and then Hyundai stepped out and said, like that's not true. But I mean, I think it's like an eventuality. We already see that most of Hyundai's lineup, they're planning to release a new electric vehicle each year. We've seen like the Ioniq 5. We know there's going to be an Ioniq 7 EV. So, that's not super surprising. And even them denying it now doesn't mean that it won't happen in the near future. So
yeah, it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And it kind of just you can tell that they're going all in on EVs, especially since they've had quite a few problems with their engines. So
yeah, Hyundai hadn't been the most reliable manufacturer for ICE cars, but I think like they had sorted it out for the most part. Like with Kia Genesis cars, like their engines have been like pretty reliable.
They've had some problems, and they've kind of fixed some things, but I think some people are still having like their engines blow up and things like that. So.
Well, I mean, at this point, they're basically like, oh, we're not going to fix these problems. We're just going to move to electric car development then.
Yeah.
So I think that raises a question, like, for the N line or rather the N models for Hyundai, like, we're probably going to see EV N cars in the near future too, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking today because there was also recently the Porsche Taycan GTS that was not released, but there were reviews coming out about the Porsche Taycan GTS, and they were saying that the Taekon GTS is the Taekon for the driving enthusiast, which I mean, I like we know that the electrification is coming, and we've also talked about like there are some benefits to electric vehicles on the track, right? Like you don't have to shift up or down. You just have one gear. There's a low center of gravity, balanced distribution, like an equal distribution of weight because of the battery. So I think there are benefits to like we're already like at a tipping point where all the manufacturers are moving to electric vehicles. So like we should just embrace it and like make the best stuff of what we have for enthusiast vehicles.
Yeah.
And like with electrification, like I think it's there's no way the enthusiast market is just going to disappear overnight. It will still exist, and we already have racing series like Formula E that's full electric. So it's just like it's transitional, and it's there's growing pains, but I'm willing to bet that we'll have some good enthusiast electric vehicles in the near future.
Yeah, I'm sure the manufacturers will make them, but we'll see how the community like embraces them, since it'll be quite a drastic change.
Yeah. And for our next piece of news, we are losing the Lexus badge. on the back of the Lexus vehicles, and we saw the recent, I believe it was a UX
The NX.
or NX. Right?
Yeah,
The new
that was
NX.
the first that lost the Lexus badge in the back, which was
Right.
replaced by Lexus written out.
Mhm.
And then with the new LX 600, we saw the trend continue.
Yeah, instead of a badge, they decided to throw on a light bar.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think Lexus also has a few other changes that'll come to all of its models. One is the new infotainment, which is really overdue.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's always
so-
been a sore spot for Toyota and Lexus vehicles. Is that their infotainment has been an absolute mess. And hopefully this one, it looks like most likely it's probably like a reskinned version of Android, as most infotainments are. But yeah, it's a much needed update for sure.
Yeah, so it was unveiled in the new NX 2022 NX, and I think Lexus is saying that they will try to introduce this in all of their models as soon as they can. And I think the last piece of news is that Lexus will also introduce more region-specific models for because the customer base in each region is kind of different. So today they don't really have many region-specific models except for, I think the only one is the UX 300e, which is an electric version of the UX that's only sold in China.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. I mean, I guess China's electric market has really been picking up. We know that Tesla has at least one plant in China right now producing quite a few Tesla cars in China. And I feel like China is one of those countries where they can easily embrace electric vehicles like instantly, you know, because of the fact that like you have a government that's has dedicated itself to climate change, according to what that's what they say. But it's also like a place where infrastructure can be built like overnight with like no opposition, and I think that's like something that America suffers from. Like we've seen the growing pains of like the government itself promotes electric vehicles, but it doesn't really put out the infrastructure for it, you know. And meanwhile, in China, you know, they can build a bullet train overnight, and you don't even need to fly domestic in China. You just take the bullet train because it goes everywhere. Same with their internet, you know. It's like they said everyone in the country should have 50 megabit internet, and now you have farmers out there with like good internet. Meanwhile, in America, you know, you have people who have no internet at all. Like it's rough to live in rural America because, you know, there's just no internet. So I think that we've also seen like several big manufacturers in China with huge EV initiatives like I want to say DS. They have a Formula E team. So you know there's it's just like China is going to be one of the biggest countries with EVs. You know, it's like just a step ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, and I think at some point the government can just mandate you to only have EVs.
Yeah, and they don't care. That's the thing. The government is like all powerful. So they'll just like if they say we're going to ban electric or gas cars are just going to be gone overnight. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know it's that's for better or for worse. You know.
It's just different.
Yeah, and I think from an enthusiast standpoint, you know, there's a lot of people in China who are car enthusiasts too. We've seen like there's like a lot of exotic cars in China because of their obscene growth and wealth. And we've also seen the first Chinese Formula One driver who's going to be debuting next year, Zhou Guanyu. So that should be exciting.
And I think since China is such a big market, whatever they do is going to have a big influence on the global like automotive industry. Like I think Porsche, they've decided that their next generation a 718 will be all electric.
Their next generation what?
718.
718.
Yeah, the Cayman. So I think it's safe to say that like China has a big influence on that because they're a big market for Porsche.
Well, speaking of Porsche, our next bit of news is the Taekon GTS, which recently a lot of the press has been able to try out on Willow Springs. And the Taekon's been out for a while, and we know the naming scheme for the Taekon. It's on par with all the other Porsches, despite the fact that there's no turbo. There's still a Taekon turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the normal Taekon 4S, the Turbo S, and then the GTS slots between the above the 4S, as in it's faster than the 4S, but it's not as powerful as the turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're calling this the enthusiast Taekon. I mean, the GTS line has always been kind of the more track-focused one, so to speak. Like, I would say it's like not necessarily the most powerful, but it's the most like lightweight as you can make the Taekon.
Yeah. But since the Taekon, you really can't make it much lighter. I think most of the improvements are like we have some suspension changes, differences in the brakes, and also I think just tuning in general. It's probably tuned for a more track-focused ride.
Right. Yeah. By the Taekon GTS comes standard with Porsche's adaptive air suspension, torque vectoring, the Sport Chrono package, as well as like the this is arguably like super cheesy, but it has the Porsche electric sport sound. So we complain about fake engine noise, and then when the cars don't have engines, now they have fake electric noise.
Yeah, I think the Mercedes EQS also has like fake performance sounds, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you can choose normal when performance or nothing.
I would definitely prefer nothing. It's just so. Like most people have been saying that the sound isn't displeasing. It's like fine, but I don't like the fact that it's artificially generated. Like it's unnecessary,
I think the Porsche ones actually they've kind of recorded like electric motors on a bench. So it has a real component to it.
Sure.
And they've probably like done some massaging to make it sound more pleasant. But if it makes you feel better, at least it has a real origin to it.
Sure. I guess one more thing to mention is that the Taekon has the Performance Plus battery pack, which is 93.4 kilowatt hours. So this is the, I think it's the biggest battery pack size, but it's not as fast as a turbo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and one last thing. So I think this new Taekon's going to have the adaptive headlights that we've seen in like Euro cars for a while. And they were illegal in the US because we need like low beams and high beams. But with the new like infrastructure bill, we can finally get adaptive headlights. And so manufacturers are starting to bring over their tech that they've been using elsewhere to the US, like finally.
When are we going to get cars without side mirrors? Because we know Audi had been playing around with that idea where they had a camera on the outside and then they had the screen on the inside, and I think that significantly reduces the drag coefficient because those mirrors are kind of just hanging off on the car.
Yeah, it'll be more important for EVs. You'll probably get like 20 miles of range just from that.
Maybe, yeah.
But one thing at a time. Like first we get adaptive headlights. We wait 10 years for another bill, and maybe we'll get the side mirrors.
Or maybe we can just wait for a car to be 25 years in Europe and just import it.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that concludes our news for this week. So let's move on to our Grinds My Gears section. And for this week's Grind My Gears, I came across a video of the Tesla Model S Plaid going up against the Unicorn, which is Ken Block's, crazy, I don't know how many, like 1,000-something horsepower.
1,400 all-wheel drive Mustang twin turbo V8. It's just nuts. Sequential transmission. Yeah. And the craziest thing about the Unicorn is it's not even a drag car.
No.
Yeah, it's just an all-wheel drive, like I think a drift car.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've been doing a series called The Unicorn versus the World, and in this episode it was the Model S Plaid versus the Unicorn. And The owner of the Model S Plaid, this guy called Adam, whose Insta tag is model_S_Pladzilla. So we get that he's very proud of his car. He looks like a huge douchebag on. I'm probably gonna say that. I'll probably cut that out. But he had come off a race with the McLaren. Obviously beat the McLaren because it's a Model S. And he comes back. They ask him, "What have you done with the car since last time?" And this guy says he fixed a dent. He didn't bother to do any prep, knowing that the Unicorn is going to make better numbers. I just think like there was a huge missed opportunity here, and I want to say in the first run the Unicorn did barely beat it, but it did beat it, and I just think it's a missed opportunity. There's another YouTube channel called the Tesla Racing Channel, and he's kind of fallen into not necessarily obscurity, but I don't know if he's racing his Tesla anymore, but he had a...
Yeah, I think it's kind of moved on to drag racer cars.
Right,
yeah.
And he had a P100D that was fully gutted, and that thing was smoking everyone at the drag strip because it's an electric car. But since the Plaid has come out, it's kind of funny that Elon Musk has been pushing a track mode and all that, and he was trying to go after the Taekon Nürburgring time, which is a good thing, but in America, I think one of the drag racing is still probably a big attraction for a lot of racing enthusiasts. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of people don't like drag, but then there's also a lot of people who do like drag, right?
Yeah, I mean it's so easy to just do it, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, there's I guess what I'm getting at is I think Tesla should be, or I guess electric vehicles should be included in drag racing events. And I guess it's this goes a little off topic, but I really hope to see that I really want someone out there to get a Plaid and then actually properly gut the car and then fit on some slicks or radials or Hoosiers and race the damn thing,
Yeah, I mean the Plaid is really just meant for going a straight line.
Right. I mean
yeah.
Some journalists have taken it on the track and they're like, this car is too heavy for it.
Yeah, and it's way under brake. I think Tesla announced that they will have a carbon ceramic brake option. But right now, the only ones you can get, the brakes are not okay for a track.
Right. I feel bad that I'm singling out this one guy. I mean, but he's it just really pissed me off when I saw it, the apathy for he just kind of looked like he lacked any actual car knowledge. He just bought the car for the kind of for the meme, for the clicks, and your car's fast, but you did nothing.
These days,
That's the thing. What grinded my gears was that he did nothing to prep the car. I
mean, he thought he was fast enough, right?
Sure, but I think this is actually the same logic for a lot of drag racers. They're actively against electric vehicles because they don't think there's any involvement from the owner. Because if you're drag racing the car, you have to do a lot of things to prep the car, to change it to modify it to be drag ready, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have performance mods. But for electric cars, you just step on the gas pedal. There's not really anything you can change short of gutting the car. But I think even then, that's a huge improvement, as we've seen from the Tesla Racing Channel.
Yeah, weight reduction definitely makes a difference. Yeah, but for the other drag racers, they have to account for things different surfaces,
right?
Traction, how much power you can put down, and for EVs, especially with Teslas, you don't do any prep. You're on street tires.
Well, you can, and I think the Tesla Racing Channel, he had a video about I was just looking into all of his videos, and there was this one about where he had tried a staggered setup where most drag racing cars, they have the huge tires in the back and the smaller tires in the front, and it turns out the Tesla prefers big tires all around, and he got faster times out of that because just the way the traction control worked. But I just think that electric cars are definitely like a force to be reckoned with in terms of drag racing, and it's just been neglected outside of that one guy, you know. Well, that Tesla racing channel, and then this guy. Like I haven't really seen too much other like Tesla drag racing besides the time it beat, like this guy beat a Hellcat with it. You know, it's like, I guess it's also about time that like drag racers, you know, adopt this car because it's clearly putting down the numbers. You know, so I just think it's something that, you know, these are the same people that are very kind of I guess it's bad to generalize, but I think it's a little traditionalist. So it's unfortunate that, you know, this car hasn't, like, it's almost like they see this car and they think that it's cheating. You know,
Yeah.
but why is it cheating? It's a car. It'll beat your car. there's not like hacking, or, you know, there's no reason you should call it cheating. It's I think it's like to reject it is to, like, it's just stubbornly stupid.
Yeah, and this Adam Pladzilla guy, he's not really representing the EV drag racing scene well.
Fuck that guy. I guess on that note, yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Is there anything coming down the pipeline for?
Haven't heard any like upcoming releases.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, you know, after CES, there's probably going to be a little bit of a lull because of all the new releases this week.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Okay. So thanks for listening, and be sure to check us out on Instagram at the TWIC podcast, as well as our YouTube, This Week in Cars, and our website, thisweekincars.com. So thanks for listening, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.